Today we're talking about strategies to practice and improve your fast passage work. My dog Tucker loves to play fetch. I can throw the ball and he'll bring it right back to me and drop it right in my hand over and over and over. I've created a framework that I'm calling fetch because the term fetch means to go and bring something back quickly and efficiently. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with fast passage work on the piano. We want to be able to rely on our fingers and hands to do exactly what we've trained them to do and fetch the correct notes as we request them. In this video, I'm going to go over my fetch framework and give you some exercises that you can practice at home. By the end of the video, you'll have fresh ideas about how to focus your practice on improving your ability to play fast passage work. When I'm talking about passage work, I'm talking about sections of the music where there are a lot of notes that are all one rhythmic unit that go very, very quickly. So it could be a string of 16th notes, it could be a string of fast triplets or sextuplets or these kinds of passages. Here's an example of what fast passage work looks and sounds like. Fast passage work is the cornerstone of so much Western classical piano music because it's impressive, it's virtuosic, it's show-offy, and it's exciting and fun to play as well as listen to. And yet it can be very scary to play fast passage work, and it can sometimes feel like it's not reliable. So like when you're performing, you come up to a section of fast passage work and maybe have that feeling of, uh-oh, here it comes. I hope it goes well, and you just kind of hold your breath and go through it. These kinds of fast passages require a special kind of focused practice of their own. The fetch framework consists of focusing on 5 key elements: fingering, economy of motion, tone, being close to the keys, and hesitations. We have a lot to cover in this video, so let's get started. F is for fingering. If you want to have any chance of playing fast passage work and being very consistent without errors, it's important to choose and use consistent fingering from the moment you start working on the passage. Consistent fingering helps you build muscle memory, and that's important because when you play a super fast passage, there's not time for you to individually think and consider where every finger should go. The hand should move automatically. When you choose fingering for fast passage work, avoid putting in too many hand position changes because you want to be able to play all the notes under one hand position and then move smoothly to the next hand position, play all those notes, and then move swiftly between hand positions. You want to avoid a situation where you're doing a couple notes, a couple notes, a couple notes, a couple notes, because it's very difficult to play quickly when your hand is moving every 2 or 3 notes. Ideally, when you're choosing and writing and fingering, you should be thinking ahead to where the hand needs to be next, because the fingering you're doing at any given moment should not only be helping you execute those notes, but also preparing your hand position for the next part that's to come. To that end, it can be very helpful to use the printed fingering that a publisher wrote in the music as a starting point, because the publisher will have been thinking about these questions of hand position changes and helping your hand move to the next position smoothly, and that will help you not only execute the piece that you're working on, but it'll help teach you some of the fingering conventions that are used by pianists. And then the next time you encounter similar patterns, you'll have a better sense of what to do. An exercise that you can do is to take a piece that has a very fast passage that you're going to play, write fingering over every single note in that passage, then practice it slowly, refine the fingering, change it in the score by erasing and writing in the corrected fingering, and then once you're satisfied with that, practice it slowly with a metronome, and then gradually work the tempo up, focusing on playing very consistently with your fingering. This will help set you up to play fast passage work reliably and confidently. E is for economy of motion. Economy of motion refers to moving your fingers and arms and hands in the most efficient way possible so that you move smoothly from one note to the next without wasting any extra effort or energy. This is super important when playing fast passage work because every single tiny motion counts. Even a motion that might seem insignificant at a slower tempo is very important when you're playing fast. An analogy that I think explains this point is carpentry. If you are measuring your legs for a table, for example, If you are off by even a couple of millimeters or 1/8 of an inch, it might seem insignificant as you're making the cut. But then when you assemble everything, you'll find that one of the legs is too short and the table wobbles, or maybe the corners don't join because you didn't measure quite precisely enough. And so even the smallest error in measurement makes a huge difference on the final product. It's the same thing with piano, that if you are making a lot of extra motions or inefficient motions, at a slow tempo, it won't matter at all. But at a faster tempo, all of those things will come back to haunt you. So a couple things to look out for. First of all, as you play, do some slow motion practice. Look down at your hand and make sure that you don't see any extra motion. So no searching for notes, no sudden motions with the arm or the hand. As you play, let your arm help anticipate where your hand is going and move the fingers into position. If you've done step 1 of this really well and put in good fingering, that should not be too difficult. When you're working on this at home, you can take your phone and set it on the end of your piano and take a little video of yourself playing. You can also do that overhead by just holding the phone over your hand while you play. And what you want to be looking for is not searching for notes, not having your fingers kind of like go over one note and then move to the correct note. It has to go straight to the note that you're about to play. And also you're going to be looking for smooth motion in the wrist and arm and no excessive jerky motions that slow down your efficiency. Also, inside your hand, you should feel relaxed. If you feel a lot of tension in each finger as you play, then that's going to be very difficult to play because it means that you're isolating your fingers. When I'm playing this passage, my fingers do not feel tight, and I do not feel tightness in the palm of my hand. This is what it sounds and looks like if my palm is tight. It's very hard for me to play accurately because I'm feeling that my fingers are kind of binding my hand to the keys. I feel like I'm stuck in the keys and I need to feel off of the keys. I need to feel light and free. And in order to do that, you need to focus on economy of motion. Focusing on economy of motion will definitely help you improve your fast passage work because moving as efficiently as possible will help your fingers move directly into place without any wasted motions. T is for tone. Playing with an even tone in fast passage work is crucial because if some notes are dropping out, if I'm hearing random accents because maybe you're playing one note with a stronger finger and another note with a weaker finger, then what happens is it sounds uneven, and therefore the sense of effortlessness that should come with fast playing is lost. When you play, listen for a consistent tone. We don't want any notes to pop out of the texture. We don't want random accents. Not only do you not want notes to stick out of the texture, but you also don't want notes to get swallowed up by the texture. So that means all the notes have to have what I call a robust tone. Fast passage work is usually an exercise in virtuosity and brilliance, and to get that brilliant sound, we need to have a firmness in the fingertips and a looseness in the palm of the hand, and have the fingers drop efficiently into the key, aided by the arm and hand. One exercise you can do to help you develop good, strong tone is close the fallboard of the piano and then just tap. And you should hear sound. A lot of times when my students do this, I hear really nothing. I want to hear a thumping. But notice that my shoulder's loose, my elbow's loose, my wrist is relaxed and helping my fingers move into position. So I want all the fingers to make that tapping sound. That's how I can tell that there's firmness in my fingertips. Then when I transfer that to the keyboard, This is a good reminder that you should always be listening to yourself when you play the piano. It's easy to kind of get caught up in the technical questions that we have and in the effort of learning notes, the effort of increasing tempo, the effort of memorization, all those things that we have to do at the piano. But also, it's most important of all to actually listen to the tone quality. If I just play shallowly on the keys without any consideration of tone, because I'm thinking about the mechanics of what I'm doing, then I lose the whole point of the passage, which is this brilliant, virtuosic, strong, exciting character. C is for close to keys. Staying close to the keys with your fingers is really important because it goes back to the economy of motion thing that we were just talking about, which is that if your fingers are close to the keys, then they have less distance to travel as you drop into the keys for each note you play. If I play this passage with super high fingers, then what's happening is my fingers have to go like that much farther, whereas if I just stay close to the keys and still drop, then I am able to play with a lot more efficiency. So as you're practicing your fast passage work, notice how high your fingers are coming up and avoid super high fingers. Now, I just want to say for the record that there are places in piano playing where lifting your fingers high is helpful. Having these high fingers can be helpful, but in very fast passage work, that's going to work against you and against your efficiency. One way to practice staying close to the keys is to actually take a scale and make sure that you're not going. Do you see how high my fingers are? Keep your fingers close to the keys. Let your wrist help your fingers get into position. Keep your fingertips firm and drop straight down into the keys from this knuckle right there. I don't have to start from an inch above the keys. I don't have to go. I can just go and use the strength of my fingers and the weight of my arm to make a strong sound. Staying close to the keys will help you play your fast passage work with more economy of motion and more ease. H is for hesitations, meaning avoid hesitations. This is one of the biggest pitfalls I see with my students and fast passage work is that they haven't done sufficient groundwork to make sure that they're able to play between every single note in the passage without hesitating to find it. This is related to every other component of the framework we've talked about so far. Choosing good fingering and practicing it consistently will help you avoid hesitating. Practicing economy of motion will help you avoid hesitating. Playing without hesitation will help you build a strong, even tone. Staying close to the keys will help you avoid hesitating. And when I talk about hesitation, what I mean is those micro hesitations that can happen from just that little tiny bit of insecurity about which finger you're playing next or how you're putting it down. So in this passage, we want there to be a sense of anticipation for every single note. And like I said at the beginning, there's not the time when you're playing quickly to think consciously about each note. A lot of this has to be automatic. One exercise that's extremely helpful at helping to reduce hesitations when you play fast passage work is what I call varying rhythmic permutations. Playing with different rhythmic permutations means that you stop at different notes on different parts of the beat over and over throughout the passage. I'll show you what I mean. This piece is in 6/8, and so we have groups of 6 16th notes at a time. What we're going to do is we're going to stop on the first note of each group of 6. We start on the second note. So basically, as they're barred, we're going to stop on this B flat. Then I'm going to stop on the G. Then I'm going to stop on the D. When I first learned how to do rhythmic permutations, I always did every passage twice. The first time I would play it slowly, stop, get used to this, and think ahead. Use the pause to think ahead. And then I do it immediately a second time, focusing on playing it. Now let's say I mess it up. Let's say I go, then I have to do that one and practice it correctly. So don't just let yourself make a whole bunch of mistakes and say, okay, well, I'm moving on because I'm playing really fast. What that does is that you learn a little tiny snippet of it at a fast tempo, and then you stop, and that pause is your chance to think ahead. What you want to do if you have passages of 4/16 notes is stop on the first note of each group, the second note of each group, the third note, and the fourth note, and do each one twice, so that means a total of 8 repetitions. If you really work on that carefully and focus on having consistent fingering, staying close to the keys, having good economy of motion, and listening for a good consistent tone, that will elevate your passage work, and you will be able to play quickly with more accuracy and ease. At the beginning of this video, I talked about the importance of using good fingering and playing consistent fingering. In order to write in fingering, it's important to understand some principles on how to choose fingering. For more info on that, check out my video on fingering principles right up there. If you found this video helpful, please like it, share it with someone, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Good luck with your fast passage work, and happy practicing.